I gifted my parents a luxury trip to Europe and planned to go with them. But when I arrived to take them to the airport, they told me they'd chosen my unemployed sister instead. My mom smiled, saying, "She needs the break more." I stayed silent. They were in for a real surprise when they landed in Europe. The engine purred to a stop, its familiar hum the only sound in the pristine quiet of the early morning. I had washed the car the night before, vacuuming the interior until not a single speck of dust remained. It felt like a sacred ritual, preparing a vessel for a pilgrimage. The air inside still carried the faint, expensive scent of the coffee I'd allowed myself as a special treat for travel day. On the passenger seat lay the leather-bound itinerary, its pages filled with a script of dreams I had meticulously inked over countless late nights. Flights, hotel confirmations, private tours, dinner reservations at Michelin-starred restaurants. It was a tapestry woven from 2 years of overtime, skipped lunches, and every spare penny I could scrape together. This trip was my magnum opus, a gift for my parents, a thank you for a lifetime of, well, for a lifetime. My eyes flickered to the clock on the dashboard, 6:02 a.m. 2 minutes late. A flicker of annoyance, quickly suppressed. Punctuality was a part of my fabric, a thread in the tapestry of reliability I had woven for myself. As I looked up, my mother was already on the porch, her large, hard-shell suitcase, the one I bought her last Christmas, waiting beside her like a loyal, bulky dog. "You're late, Violet," she said, her voice carrying across the damp lawn without a hint of greeting. "No, good morning." "No, are you excited?" I forced my lips into a smile, the muscles already feeling tight. "Sorry, Mom. There was a bit more traffic than I expected." I pushed the car door open, the morning air cool against my skin. "Let me get that for you." My movements were automatic, programmed by years of being the helpful one, the capable one. But then, the front door of the house opened again, and my sister, Lauren, emerged, dragging her own garish, pink-plaid suitcase behind her. It was stuffed so full the zipper strained. My smile, that fragile, forced thing, froze solid on my face. My brain tried to process the image, to find a logical explanation. A coincidental visit? She was dropping something off? "What's going on?" I asked, my voice strangely calm, a flat line of sound. My mother turned to me, her expression a masterpiece of breezy, oblivious cheer. "Oh, Violet, we decided Lauren should come with us instead. She's been so stressed lately, poor thing. She really needs this trip." The words didn't just land, they detonated. Instead of me, the air left my lungs in a silent rush. My chest tightened, a physical ache spreading beneath my ribcage. I could feel the weight of the itinerary in my hand, the smooth leather suddenly feeling like a lead weight. Instead of me, the question was a whisper, torn from somewhere deep and raw. "Mom, I've been planning this for years. I paid for everything." She waved a hand, a fluttery, dismissive gesture that brushed away my years of sacrifice like a crumb from a tablecloth. "And we're so grateful, sweetheart, truly. But you're always working so hard, you're so busy. You can take another trip anytime. Lauren needs this right now." My gaze shifted to Lauren, and she didn't have the decency to look ashamed, or even apologetic. She met my eyes and a slow, triumphant smirk spread across her face. She shifted her weight onto one hip, the picture of casual victory. "Thanks for understanding, sis," she said, her tone dripping with a syrupy, fake gratitude that made my stomach turn. I stared at them, my heart now a frantic, pounding drum against my ribs. The world seemed to have narrowed to this driveway, to their two faces, one cheerfully cruel, the other smugly victorious. The sound of the screen door, swinging open again, broke the spell. My dad shuffled out, his eyes fixed firmly on the pavement, as if the cracks in the concrete were the most fascinating thing he'd ever seen. He wordlessly handed me his suitcase, his own smaller, more practical bag. "This is unbelievable," I said, my voice finally beginning to shake, betraying the tempest raging inside me. "This was supposed to be our trip, something for me to share with you." "Well, it still is," my mother said, her smile not faltering for a single second. "Just with Lauren instead. Don't make this a big deal, Violet. Your sister really needs a break. My name is Violet. For the past 2 years, my life had been a cycle of work, save, and plan. While my friends were out buying drinks, I was calculating exchange rates. While they went on weekend getaways, I was researching the best time to see the Louvre without the crowds. I had foregone new clothes, a better apartment, any semblance of a social life, all for this. This one perfect gift. This proof that I was a good daughter, a successful one, the one who could give them the world. But as I stood there in the cool morning air of my parents' driveway, watching my jobless, perpetually stressed sister get into the back seat of my car, the final, fragile illusion shattered. It didn't matter how much effort I put in. It didn't matter how high I climbed. In their eyes, Lauren, with her constant dramas and her helplessness, would always come first. A hot, sharp retort sat on the tip of my tongue, a torrent of anger and pain ready to spill out. I clenched my jaw so hard I felt my teeth might crack, forcing it all back down. The taste of copper filled my mouth. I wouldn't give them the satisfaction. I wouldn't let them see me break. Instead, I forced my face into a tight, bloodless smile. My voice, when it came out, was flat and devoid of all emotion. A dead thing. Let's get going then. If they wanted to prioritize her over me, fine. They could go with her. But a cold, hard certainty was crystallizing in the pit of my stomach. I wasn't about to let them enjoy it. The drive to the airport was a study in suffocation. The car, once a space of hopeful anticipation, was now a prison on wheels. The only sound, aside from the hum of the engine, was Lauren's incessant, grating chatter from the back seat. Oh my gosh, Mom, did you see that TikTok about that little pastry shop in Paris? I can't wait to go shopping on the Champs-Élysées. Do you think we'll have time for that, or will all the boring tours Violet planned take up the whole day? My hands gripped the steering wheel, the leather groaning in protest under my white-knuckled grasp. I stared straight ahead, focusing on the taillights of the car in front of me, forcing myself not to react, not to scream. My mom chuckled softly, a sound that felt like sandpaper on my nerves. Of course we'll have time, darling. We'll figure it out when we get there. When we get there. The phrase echoed in the silent spaces of my mind. They would figure it out. They didn't even seem to notice I was no longer part of that we. I was just the chauffeur. The planner. The bank. I bit the inside of my cheek, the sharp pain of grounding, familiar anchor in the surreal nightmare. At one point, my dad cleared his throat, the sound awkward and heavy in the silence. Thank you for driving us, Violet, he murmured, his eyes meeting mine for a fleeting second in the rearview mirror. I know this probably feels unusual. I didn't turn. I kept my gaze locked on the road. Unusual, I repeated, the word tasting like ash. That's an interesting way to put it, Dad. He didn't respond. I saw him shift uncomfortably in my periphery, probably wishing he'd never spoken at all, retreating into his familiar shell of passive silence. Then Lauren leaned forward, her head appearing between the two front seats, her breath faintly smelling of the mint she just popped into her mouth. You're not, mad, right? She asked, her voice a parody of concern. I mean, this is really big of you letting me go. I could never have afforded this on my own. Like ever. The condescension was a physical blow. Letting me go. As if it had been my choice. As if this were a benevolent act on my part, and not a brutal, last-minute ambush. I clenched my jaw, so tightly a muscle ticked in my cheek. I forced another tight smile, this one feeling like it might crack my face. Of course, Lauren, I heard myself say, the words automatic, robotic. Enjoy the trip. By the time I pulled the car into the airport drop-off zone, my patience was a frayed thread, worn down to its final filament. I moved like an automaton, unloading their luggage from the trunk, handing them their bags. My mom stepped forward and wrapped me in a brief, perfunctory hug. Thank you for understanding, sweetheart, she said, her voice low and meant only for me, though the words were empty. This means a lot to us. And to Lauren. I nodded stiffly, my body rigid in her embrace. Sure, Mom. Lauren beamed as she wheeled her overstuffed suitcase toward the gleaming automatic doors. Thanks, Violet. You're the best. I stood there, a statue in the bustling curbside chaos, watching the three of them, my family, disappear into the gaping maw of the terminal. The tightness in my chest was a physical pain, a knot of anger and a deep, profound hurt that felt ancient. I didn't move until long after they were gone, until a honk from an impatient driver behind me jolted me back to reality. The ride back home was a blur of smeared streetlights and a roaring silence in my head. I replayed the morning's conversation on a loop, each word a shard of glass cutting deeper than the last. Lauren should come instead. You're always working so hard. You're not mad, right? This means a lot to Lauren. The justifications, the dismissals, the sheer, breathtaking entitlement of it all. It wasn't just about the trip. This was a pattern, a lifetime of patterns. Every birthday where Lauren's minor crisis had hijacked the attention. Every holiday where her preferences dictated the menu, the schedule, the very mood of the day. My accomplishments, promotions, degrees, were met with a polite, "That's nice, dear," before the conversation swiftly returned to whatever drama was currently unfolding in Lauren's world. I was the stable one, the reliable one. And my stability had become my curse, an excuse for them to pour all their resources, all their emotional energy, into the squeaky wheel that was my sister. I pulled into my driveway, the house that I owned, paid for with my reliable, stable job, and I sat there, my hand still gripping the steering wheel. I watched my knuckles turn white, the pressure a feeble outlet for the storm raging inside me. The itinerary was still on the passenger seat. I picked it up, the leather cool and smooth under my fingertips. All those dreams, all that hope, reduced to this. A prop in a play where I wasn't even a supporting character anymore. Then, a cold, clear resolve cut through the hot anger. It was sharp and precise, a surgeon's scalpel. They wanted to take Lauren on my trip? Fine. Absolutely fine. I marched into my house, the silence of it a welcome contrast to the noise in my head. I went straight to my home office, pulled out my laptop, and opened it. The screen glowed to life, a portal to my revenge. I logged into every travel account, every airline, every hotel booking site. My fingers flew across the keyboard, calm and deliberate. The 5-star hotel in Paris with the Eiffel Tower view? I navigated to the managed booking section. Cancel reservation. The confirmation pop-up appeared. I clicked yes, without a moment's hesitation. The private guided tour of the Vatican museums. Refund request. The cooking class in a Tuscan villa? Cancel booking. The first-class train tickets from Rome to Florence? Cancelled. The airline upgrades that would have given them extra legroom and champagne? Revoked. I worked methodically, systematically dismantling the luxury experience piece by piece. I was an architect, not of a dream, but of its ruin. With each cancellation email that landed in my inbox, I felt a piece of the tightness in my chest loosen, replaced by a cold, satisfying sense of justice. They thought they could just take my gift and hand it to someone else. They thought my hard work was a transferable commodity, devoid of my presence, my love, my intention. When I finally closed the laptop, the screen going dark, a profound and quiet satisfaction settled over me. The house was silent. The sun was higher in the sky now, casting long, bright rectangles of light on the floor. They could explain themselves to the front desk staff in Paris. They could figure out their own tours, their own meals, their own transportation. I was done. I was finally, irrevocably done being their doormat. The silence in my house was a tangible thing, a balm on my raw nerves. I unpacked my own suitcase, the one I had packed so carefully with elegant travel-size bottles and outfits chosen for specific occasions. The irony of hanging up a little black dress meant for a Parisian dinner in my own mundane closet was not lost on me. Each garment I put away felt like laying a ghost to rest. Then, the buzzing started. It was a low, insistent vibration from my phone on the kitchen counter. I ignored it, continuing to put my shoes back in their place on the shelf. It stopped. Then, a moment later, it started again. And again. A relentless, digital nagging. I sighed, finally picking it up. The screen was lit up with a cascade of notifications. Missed calls, voicemails, text messages. All from my mother. Mom, 9:14 a.m. Violet, what is going on? The hotel won't let us check in. They say the reservation is missing. Call me immediately. Mom, 9:27 a.m. Violet, this isn't funny. The concierge says the booking was cancelled. Fix this now. Mom, 9:41 a.m. Answer your phone. We are standing in the lobby with all our luggage. This is humiliating. A short, sharp laugh escaped me before I could stop it. It was a dry, humorless sound. Fix this. The sheer, unadulterated audacity of it. After what they had done, they still believed I was on standby, their personal customer service representative, ready to swoop in and save the day. The phone buzzed again, this time with a call from Lauren. I watched it ring, the screen flashing her name with a photo of her making a duck face. I let it go to voicemail. A few seconds later, the notification for a new message appeared. I pressed play, holding the phone away from my ear. Violet, this is so petty, her voice snapped, shrill and entitled even through the tiny speaker. We're stuck here because of you. You need to call the hotel and fix it now. I can't believe you're being such a... I rolled my eyes and deleted the voicemail before she could finish her insult. 4 years, I had been their fixer. The one who handled the complicated tax forms, who negotiated with the mechanic, who organized family events, who smoothed over every one of Lauren's crises. Not anymore. Eventually, I decided to answer the next call, if only to stop the barrage. It was my mother again. Her voice hit me like a physical wave of fury the second I connected the line. Violet, what in God's name did you do? The hotel says the reservation was cancelled. None of the tours are booked anymore. The tour company has no record of us. I let her rant for a moment, let the frantic, angry words wash over me. I felt strangely calm, detached. When she paused for breath, I replied, my voice even and cool. I cancelled them. There was a long, stunned silence on the other end of the line. I could almost hear the gears grinding to a halt in her brain. Then a low, furious hiss. Why? Why would you do that? Oh, I don't know, Mom, I said, my tone laced with a sarcasm so sharp it could draw blood. Maybe because you decided to take Lauren on my trip. You're lucky I even drove you to the airport. We thought you'd understand, she snapped, the words a whip crack. Understand what? I asked, my own voice beginning to rise, the calm cracking. That years of saving and planning didn't matter? That my hard work meant nothing to you because Lauren needed a break? Guess what, Mom? I don't understand. And I don't care to. I hung up before she could form a response, my thumb jabbing the end call button with a satisfying finality. I then turned my phone completely off, tossing it onto the living room couch like it was a venomous insect. The silence that descended was immediate and blissful. I took a deep, full breath, the first one I felt I'd taken all day. If they wanted to prioritize Lauren, fine. But they could figure out the rest of their European break without me. The silence lasted only a day. By the next morning, the urge to check my phone was a physical itch. I had spent the previous day in a state of productive numbness, cleaning the house from top to bottom, attacking a work project I'd been neglecting. It felt good to focus on things I could control, things that belonged solely to me. But by evening, curiosity got the better of me. I powered the phone on and braced myself. It chimed and vibrated for a full minute as a deluge of messages downloaded. Mom, yesterday for 18 p.m. Violet, you have gone too far. Your sister is in tears and your father is furious. We can't get into any of the hotels you booked. We're at some awful roadside motel by the airport. Lauren, yesterday, for 35 p.m. you're acting like a child. I don't get why you're making this such a big deal. Just fix it already. Dad, yesterday, 5:02 p.m. Violet. We need to talk. This isn't right. Mom, today 8:15 a.m. call me. Now. This is unacceptable. I set the phone down on the kitchen table, shaking my head slowly. For years, I had been the one to fix things, to make sure everyone was comfortable and happy. Now that I'd taken a step back, they were floundering. They didn't know how to handle it. They were lost without their designated problem solver. I poured myself a cup of tea, the ceramic mug warm and solid in my hands, and sat down. I let the anger simmer, but it was a cleaner anger now, purged of its initial, shocking pain. How dare they? How dare they expect me to clean up a mess of their own making? How dare they act like I was the one being unreasonable, the one violating some sacred family code? The next call came minutes later. This time I answered, Violet. My mom's voice was a bark, stripped of any pretense of civility. This isn't funny anymore. We're stranded. Do you have any idea how embarrassing this is? We had to take a bus into the city. I took a slow, deliberate sip of my tea, letting the silence stretch. Embarrassing. I repeated softly. You think this is embarrassing? Try saving for years, planning every single detail with love, and then being told at the last second that you're not even part of the trip you paid for. Stop being so dramatic, she snapped. Lauren needed this more than you do. She's fragile. And now she can figure it out. I said, my voice firm, leaving no room for argument. You made your decision, Mom. You wanted to take Lauren instead of me. Fine. But don't expect me to fund her vacation. We're family, she hissed, the word a weapon. We don't do this to each other. I let out a bitter laugh, the sound startling even to me. Funny. I was just thinking the same thing. In the background, I heard Lauren's voice, a high-pitched whine. Mom, just hang up on her. She's being impossible. That was the final straw. The last thread of any lingering guilt or doubt snapped. Enjoy your trip, I said, my tone dropping to an icy chill. Oh, wait. You can't. Because it's not your trip. It was mine. And now it's nobody's. Goodbye, Mom. I hung up. This time, I didn't just turn my phone off. I went into the settings and blocked all their numbers. My mom's, my dad's, Lauren's. The action felt symbolic, a digital drawing of a boundary line. For the rest of the evening, I felt an odd, powerful mix of anger and relief. Anger that they put me in this position, that they could be so blind, so cruel. But relief, a soaring, incredible relief, that I had finally, after a lifetime, stood up for myself. They could call me dramatic, petty, a child. For the first time in my life, I wasn't letting them take advantage of me. The weight that lifted from my shoulders was almost physical. The next few days were blissfully, profoundly quiet. With my phone effectively a brick, disconnected from their world of drama, I finally had the space to think clearly. The constant, low-level anxiety that had been my baseline for years began to recede, like a tide going out. I spent my morning sipping coffee on my back porch, actually tasting the rich, dark roast, feeling the sun on my skin, listening to the birds without a running mental commentary of all the things I needed to do for other people. My afternoons were filled with work I enjoyed, and with small, personal projects I'd been putting off forever. I finally hung the art prints I bought months ago. I organized my bookshelf not by practicality, but by color, simply because I liked how it looked. I went for long, aimless walks, exploring my own neighborhood as if for the first time. Each small act was a reclamation, a quiet statement. This is my life. These are my choices. But the outside world, and its pressures, still existed. On the third day, my doorbell rang. I peered through the peephole to see my friend Grace standing on the welcome mat, holding 2 steaming cups of coffee from my favorite place, an unmistakable look of curiosity and concern on her face. I opened the door, a genuine smile touching my lips for the first time in days. Grace, I heard about what happened, she said without preamble, stepping inside and handing me a cup. Your mom called me yesterday. Of course she did. My mom had always been skilled at recruiting flying monkeys, at triangulating and guilt-tripping through intermediaries. And what did you tell her? I asked, taking a grateful sip. Grace shrugged, a sly, knowing smile creeping across her face. I told her you were probably busy and would get back to her when you were ready. I laughed, a real, full-bodied laugh that felt foreign and wonderful. You're the best, you know that? No, you're the best, she said, her tone shifting to something more serious. She put her coffee down and looked me straight in the eye. Because you finally stood up for yourself. I know how hard that is, Violet. Don't you dare let them drag you back down. You've been their puppet for too long. Her words stuck with me long after she left, echoing in the new quiet of my house. Grace was right. I had spent my entire life bending over backward to please people who never seemed to see the strain, who never thought to ask if I was okay. It was time to break that cycle once and for all. A few days later, powered by this new resolve, I unblocked their numbers. I wasn't hiding anymore. Almost immediately, a call came through. It was my dad. "Violet," he began, his voice heavy with a weariness I knew wasn't just from jet lag. "Your mom wanted me to call. She thinks you might listen to me." "Go on," I said, leaning back in my chair, my voice neutral. He let out a long, ragged sigh. "Look, this has all gotten out of hand. Your mom's upset, Lauren's furious, and, well, it's just a mess. But you're better than this, Violet." I stiffened. His words, meant to be conciliatory, only ignited a fresh wave of anger. Better than this. The condescension was a velvet-wrapped brick. "Better than what, Dad?" I asked, my voice dangerously calm. "Better than standing up for myself? Better than refusing to let you all walk all over me again?" "That's not what I meant," he said quickly, defensively. "It's just, you've always been the reasonable one. The one who keeps everything together. This isn't like you." I laughed, a short, bitter sound. "You're right. It's not like me. Because I'm not bending over backward to clean up your mess this time. I'm not being reasonable by accepting utterly unreasonable behavior." He paused, and for a fleeting, foolish moment, I thought he might finally see it. See me. But then he said, "You're punishing the whole family over one decision, Violet. Is that really fair?" "Fair," I repeated, my voice rising, the calm shattering. "You want to talk about fair? Was it fair when you and Mom decided I wasn't important enough to be part of the trip I planned and paid for? Was it fair when you replaced me with Lauren like I was a piece of furniture you could swap out?" "That's not what we were trying to do," he said, his tone turning defensive. "We just thought Lauren needed it more." "Of course you did," I snapped, the dam finally breaking. "You always think she needs more. More attention, more support, more of everything. And I'm always the one expected to understand, to sacrifice, to be the goddamn grown-up. Well, not anymore. Not this time." The silence on the other end of the line was deafening. I could hear his shallow breathing. "Finally," he said, the fight gone from his voice, replaced by a hollow confusion. "I don't know what you want me to say, Violet." The fight drained out of me just as quickly. He didn't get it. He might never get it. And I was finally realizing that his understanding was no longer a prerequisite for my peace. "I don't need you to say anything, Dad," I replied, my voice steady, filled with a newfound and unshakable certainty. "I just need you to understand that I'm done. I'm done being the afterthought. I'm done being the one who gives, and gives while everyone else takes. From now on, I come first. Goodbye, Dad." I ended the call and set the phone down. My hands were trembling, but it wasn't from fear or sadness. It was from the sheer, adrenaline-fueled power of finally speaking my truth. For the rest of the day, I let myself feel everything, the anger, the residual sadness, the profound relief. It wasn't easy. A lifetime of conditioning doesn't vanish overnight, but it felt like the start of something new, something real. I wasn't the family's fixer anymore. I wasn't the reasonable one who had to absorb everyone else's unreasonableness. I was just Violet, and that was enough. When my parents and Lauren finally returned from their disastrous, scaled-back version of my dream trip, I was waiting for them. I had parked in their driveway, sipping my coffee, feeling a surprising and solid calm settle over me. I watched their taxi pull up, looking tired and defeated. They stepped out, dragging their suitcases behind them. Their faces were etched with exhaustion and deep-seated irritation. Lauren was the first to speak, her voice a petulant whine that grated on the peaceful morning air. "Well, I hope you're happy, Violet." I raised an eyebrow, staying seated on the porch swing I'd been rocking gently on. "Happy about what?" "Our trip was a disaster," my mom snapped, waving a hand as if to physically bat away the entire experience. "We spent the entire week staying in dingy, awful hotels and eating terrible food because we couldn't afford anything decent. And don't even get me started on the tours." Lauren chimed in, crossing her arms over her chest in a huff. "Oh, wait, there weren't any. Do you have any idea how embarrassing it was to show up and be told there was no reservation? We looked like idiots." I took another slow, deliberate sip of my coffee, letting their complaints hang in the air between us. They truly didn't see it. They saw only my actions, not the cause. "Sounds rough," I said finally, my voice calm and even. "But you wanted to take Lauren. Remember? I'm sure you all had some great bonding time over. What was it? Terrible food." "That's not the point," my mom shot back, her voice rising an octave. "You knew we couldn't afford all the things you planned. You set us up to fail. That was it. The final accusation." I stood up, setting my mug down on the small table next to me with a firm, definitive click. "No, Mom," I said, my voice cutting through her anger. "I didn't set you up for anything. I planned a trip for the three of us, something special I'd been saving for years. You were the ones who decided to cut me out at the last second." You made a choice. You don't get to be angry about the consequences of that choice. My dad finally spoke up, his tone quieter but no less accusatory. You didn't have to cancel everything, Violet. That was extreme. Was it? I asked, folding my arms. Why should I have paid for a trip I wasn't even invited on? If Lauren needed it so badly, you should have planned it yourselves. You were lucky that I didn't cancel the return flights, too. Lauren rolled her eyes. A gesture of such profound dismissal, it was a miracle my head didn't explode. You're so dramatic, Violet. It's just money. And you're so entitled. I shot back, my patience finally snapping. Do you have any idea how much work and sacrifice went into planning that trip? Or do you just assume things magically appear for you because someone else is always there to take care of it? Do you think five-star hotels and private tours grow on trees? They stood there, the three of them, stunned into a momentary silence. I had never spoken to them like this. I had never raised my voice, never confronted them so directly. I've spent my entire life being the responsible one. I continued, my voice steady but firm, ringing with a truth I should have voiced long ago. The one who fixes things, who plans things, who makes sure everything runs smoothly. And you spent just as long taking it all for granted. That's not fair, my mom started, but I held up a hand, a sharp, silencing gesture. No, Mom. What's not fair is how you treated me. You chose Lauren over me, like you always do. So I chose me. I chose to stop being your doormat. You didn't want me on the trip? Fine. But you don't get to enjoy the benefits of my hard work, my money and my love without me. I grabbed my bag from the porch swing and turned to walk to my car. I'm glad you're back safely, I said over my shoulder, the words final. But don't expect things to go back to the way they were. I'm done. As I walked away, I heard them calling after me, their voices a confused mix of anger and guilt and sheer disbelief. But I didn't look back. Not once. I got into my car, started the engine, and drove away from the house I'd grown up in, from the people who had defined me for so long. And for the first time, the drive felt peaceful. I felt lighter. I had finally said everything I needed to say. The weeks and months that followed were a journey of rediscovery. I wasn't just moving on. I was building a new life from the ground up, a life constructed around my own wants and needs, not the expectations of others. I started small. I redecorated my living room, getting rid of the hand-me-down furniture from my parents that had never felt like me, and replacing it with pieces I truly loved. A bold, colorful sofa, a bookshelf made of reclaimed wood. I spent my weekends not running errands for my family, but exploring my city. I visited art galleries, spent hours in bookstores, and hiked trails I'd always been too busy to see. I started journaling, not just logging events, but excavating my own thoughts and dreams. 4 years, my goals had been filtered through the lens of what would make my parents proud, or what would help Lauren. Now, the page was blank, and the pen was solely in my hand. Learn Italian. Take a photography class. Visit Japan. Start that small online business you've always dreamed of. The list grew, each item a thrilling declaration of independence. One evening, I sat down with my laptop and opened the spreadsheet I'd used to plan the doomed Europe trip. The columns of canceled reservations and refunded amounts no longer filled me with anger or regret. They felt like reclaimed energy. That money had been meant for a once-in-a-lifetime experience, and I wasn't going to let it go to waste. Closing the spreadsheet, I opened a new browser tab. My fingers hovered over the keyboard for a moment before I typed. Solo travel ideas. A few weeks later, I booked a trip. Not to the places I'd meticulously planned for them, but to Italy on my own terms. It wasn't about proving a point anymore. It was a gift to myself, a celebration of my own independence. The moment I landed in Rome, a wave of exhilarating nervousness and pure freedom washed over me. I navigated the bustling Termini station on my own, found my charming, small hotel in Trastevere on my own, and spent my days wandering wherever my feet took me. I got lost in cobblestone alleys and discovered hidden piazzas. I sat for hours in cafes, sketching in my journal, or simply watching the world go by. There was no schedule, no one to appease, no one to manage. It was just me. One afternoon, sitting on the Spanish steps with a gelato that tasted like heaven, I pulled out my journal. The sun was warm on my face. I wrote about the vibrant colors of the buildings, the sound of the fountains, the feeling of the ancient stones beneath me. And then I started writing about my future. Not a future designed to earn love, but one designed to cultivate joy. The words flowed easily, fueled by a sense of possibility I hadn't felt since I was a child. On my last night in Florence, I had dinner at a small, family-run trattoria overlooking the Arno River. As I watched the sunset paint the sky in hues of orange and pink, reflecting on the water, I felt a deep, profound peace settle in my soul. This trip had been more than a vacation. It had been a pilgrimage to myself. I had spent so much of my life trying to earn a place in my family's heart, trying to be enough for them. But here, thousands of miles away, surrounded by beauty and my own quiet company, I realized the most liberating truth of all. I was enough, just as I was. Their approval was no longer a currency I needed to survive. When I returned home, tanned and filled with a new light. There were tentative messages waiting for me. My mom had texted, "Hope you had a nice trip. Maybe we can all talk soon." I read the message, felt the old, familiar tug of guilt and obligation, and then I let it go. I set the phone down. I wasn't ready to reply, and for the first time, that felt perfectly okay. The power was no longer in their hands, it was in mine. Any reconciliation, if it were to happen, would be on my terms, from a place of strength, not subservience. As I unpacked my suitcase, placing a small ceramic lemon from Sorrento and a print from a Florentine artist on my shelves, I felt a sense of pride that was entirely my own. I had done this. I had created this beautiful experience for myself. I had stood my ground, and I had not been destroyed. I had in fact been reborn. A week later, I signed up for that photography class. I joined a local hiking group. I started making concrete plans for my small business. Each step was another brick laid in the foundation of my new life. One evening, as I sat on my own porch at my house, watching the sunset paint the sky in familiar, comforting hues, I realized how far I had come. The anger was still there, a quiet ember, but it no longer controlled me. The hurt was a scar, but it no longer defined me. I wasn't the person who bent over backward for people who didn't appreciate me anymore. I was someone who valued herself, who set boundaries, and who wasn't afraid to stand up for what she deserved. The calls from my family became less frequent, their tone shifting from demanding to cautiously respectful. The dynamic had permanently shifted. I had broken the cycle. I felt, for the first time in my life, truly, completely, and unapologetically free. And that freedom was more luxurious than any five-star hotel, more breathtaking than any view of the Eiffel Tower. It was mine, and no one could ever take it away.